If you ask me, I think it's unfair to judge it after just 2 races there. Personally, I feel more people should give it another chance. Baku didn't produce the most exciting race the first time around, but look at how it's redeemed itself since. This year's Spanish Grand Prix was very intriguing due to the strategic battle between the top 2 teams, so all hope isn't lost for Paul Ricard. These track changes could provide an absolute classic, and fan opinions would change very quickly. Let's see how things pan out on Sunday, and then come back to this video to see if people still have the same sentiments. Well, that aged well. The 2021 French Grand Prix was by far the best race we've had at the Circuit Paul Ricard so far. A race that only got more and more intense, right down to the wire, delivered an absolute classic between the 2 championship protagonists. From Mercedes' pain to Red Bull's gain, these are the winners and losers from the French Grand Prix. Winners: Red Bull. It seems as though Red Bull have been the more clinical team as of late. Right from the off, they were on the pace in practice, with Verstappen topping both FP2 and FP3. He was then able to convert on the car's potential by sticking it on pole by 2.5 tenths, with his teammate Sergio Perez not far behind in P4. Max's initial getaway from the line was pretty even with Hamilton. However, he braked a little too deep heading into turn 1 and conceded the lead to the Brits. Checo's start was pretty decent as he managed to hold off Carlos Sainz to maintain P4. From there, the race started to settle down and Checo was slowly dropping away from the top 3. Then during the first round of pit stops, Bottas was the first to come in to attempt an undercut on Verstappen. Red Bull managed to cover this threat, but a monster outlap for the Dutchman helped him overturn a 3.5 second deficit and undercut Hamilton. Meanwhile, Checo was left out to go long to have fresher tyres later on in the race. Midway through, it started to become clear that they wouldn't be able to make it to the end, and a 2-stop was required. The Red Bull strategists were once again much sharper than Mercedes, and they brought Verstappen in for a set of mediums to attack until the end. Initially, he was gaining around 2 seconds a lap on the arrows, and once he got there, he maintained composure and overtook both cars on his first attempt. Checo also played the team game very well by not holding up his teammates and ended up passing Bottas for the final spot on the podium. For the first time in the turbo hybrid era, Red Bull have won 3 races in a row. And considering that this was meant to be a track where Mercedes would have the advantage, it's got to be a huge confidence booster going forward. Christian Horner even said that if we can beat them here, we can beat them anywhere. And it really is starting to look that way. They now lead the Constructors' Championship by 37 points, with Verstappen leading the drivers by 12 points. Heading to their home track next week, they'll be looking to repeat a similar result. Losers: Mercedes. Are Mercedes really starting to crack under pressure? It certainly seems that way. Prior to the weekend, Mercedes swapped Hamilton and Bottas' chassis, something that Toto Wolff talked about after FP2.
It's part of the planning as this carryover chassis, they run for a second season, so we are not accumulating millions of miles on one, and that's part of the plan. But it's good to get the feedback, and if it calms the driver's mind, we have a spare chassis, which is a brand new one. We can always do that.
Hamilton had a difficult start to the weekend as he ended both practice sessions behind his teammates, as he struggled to adapt to the new chassis. As a result, people started to suspect whether Bottas had been driving an inferior car, given how he was suddenly a lot quicker than his teammates. However, when it came down to it in qualifying, Lewis delivered a great lap to line up alongside Verstappen on the front row with Bottas in P3. Lewis made a decent start and capitalized on Verstappen's mistake to take the lead. Now, as for the pit stops, I didn't understand why Mercedes didn't bring Lewis in a lap after Bottas. Surely, they would have seen how powerful the undercut was from someone like Ricciardo, who actually managed to leap 2 cars in Gasly and Sainz. For me, Mercedes threw away the win at that moment, given how hard it was for Verstappen to overtake in the opening few laps. Luckily for them, the race became a 2-stop as tyre degradation was higher than expected. So they could have pulled the trigger earlier this time to put Red Bull and Verstappen under pressure. But ultimately, they were caught out again and forced to stay out on the hard tyres. Valtteri had no more life left in his tyres at the end and didn't do the best job defending Max as he ran too deep going into turn 8. Lewis was somehow managing to extract performance from tyres that had nothing left. But in the end, Verstappen was too fast to hold at bay. Bottas, understandably, let his frustration out on the radio as he told the team earlier on that the race would be a two-stop and they just didn't listen to him. Overall, Mercedes were just too sloppy and weren't as sharp as their rivals. Now, they are known to bounce back from setbacks like these, but it'll be very hard for them to overcome the might of Red Bull, who look like they now have the fastest car. Winners, McLaren. What a result for both Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. After a relatively disappointing qualifying session, both drivers lined up P10 and P8 respectively. The Honey Badger was able to jump his teammate at the start, and his overtaking ability came in handy on a track that is traditionally very difficult to pass on. He then made an early stop to jump both Gasly and Sainz, whereas Lando dropped to P13 after being left out on the first stint. However, Norris, on the fresher set of hard tyres, was able to fight back and finish P5, with Ricciardo following up in 6th. This result will no doubt be a boost in their fight for third in the constructors with Ferrari, who didn't have the smoothest of weekends. Losers, Ferrari. After securing pole at the last 2 races, Ferrari were brought back to reality at Paul Ricard. Sainz was able to maximise his qualifying result as he ended the session in 5th, with Charles Leclerc down in 7th. However, in the race, they really struggled with tyre graining and overall a lack of pace. Tyre degradation was a lot higher than expected for everybody, but Ferrari undoubtedly suffered from it a lot more than their competitors. Leclerc in particular struggled a lot with his tyres as he was one of the first ones to come in. He managed to jump a few cars in the process, but had to pit again on lap 38 and eventually came home in P16. Sainz was able to make a one-stop strategy work, but again, his tyres also suffered a significant amount, and in the end, he finished 11th. During the weekend, the Scuderia also revealed that they have fully switched their focus to 2022, so no more updates will come onto their 2021 car. Heading into the next few races, they'll be looking to bounce back from a difficult weekend and figure out their issues with tyre deg. Winner, George Russell. The Brits described that race as the best he's ever had. After another great qualifying performance, George lined up 14th on the grid. But he got a poor start due to a lot of wheel spin from the line and dropped to P18. However, he managed to recover well by pitting on lap 17 and going to the end on the hard tyres, on which he had some very good pace. Towards the end, he overtook Yuki Tsunoda to come home in P12 and help Williams move ahead of Haas in the Constructors' Championship. After the race, Russell explained that the reason he had a poor start was because he didn't get the tyres up to temperature. But despite this, it was still a great result for him and the team, who achieved it on merit and not through exceptional circumstances. Loser, Esteban Ocon. Alpine had Netflix with them this weekend, and we all know what that means. After securing a new 3-year deal with the team at his home race, Esteban had a great start to the weekend, but unfortunately, that's about as good as it was going to get. The Frenchman could only manage to qualify P11 with his teammates up in P9. So it wasn't too bad a position to start in, considering he had a free choice on tyres. But since everybody in the top 10 got into Q2 on mediums, he was forced to start on the hards. However, Alpine brought him in a bit too early as he pitted on lap 29, which left him to go too long on the mediums. He crossed the finish line in a disappointing P14 in what will be a weekend to forget. Winners, F1 fans. Paul Ricard is known for normally producing pretty dull racing. However, in 2021, this was far from the case. The close competition between the teams at the top and in the midfield is really bringing the best out of each and every circuit. Both the Spanish and French Grand Prix were made 10 times more intriguing by the strategy wars between Mercedes and Red Bull. Both Hamilton and Verstappen had to make overtakes for the win, which is exactly how it should be. This season is shaping up to be one of the best we've seen in history, and it looks like it might actually go down to the wire if it remains this close for the remaining races. Who were your winners and losers from the French Grand Prix? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Please like and share this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel with bell notifications to keep up to date with the latest storylines from the 2021 season. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.